Welcome back to Crimson Tales, where I bring fanfiction stories to life through narration.
This fanfiction story, Harry Potter, Lycan, is written by author Legendary Chaos. Now let's start the video. 2 weeks passed by since the werewolf incident which left Remus without a job. While he was almost set for next year due to the potion and berserking, Dumbledore was unable to hire him for the coming year, which suited the man just as he soon left without even an in-person goodbye, but instead left a letter. As for dealing with Umbridge, besides her handwriting, they didn't have much to use against her, so that was being postponed, as the date for the ritual rapidly approached. Instead of mere days, they were down to hour as only Harry, Albus, and Daphne were left in the castle. Daphne somehow managed to convince her parents that she was getting a few extra lessons from Harry and Dumbledore, so they agreed to pick her up a couple weeks later than others. It's amazing how much time seems to pass by when you get older. Dumbledore sighed as he watched Harry and Daphne finish preparing the ritual. I remember when I was a young lad, and time seemed to move at a snail pace. Now it is as if that snail turned into a hare. Albus, it's all about perception, as time always moves at the same pace. Not that time has any meaning anymore for me, Harry commented and grumbled the last half. Truthfully, Harry has been avoiding that he is an immortal for the last year. It doesn't really matter at the current time, but in 10 or even 20 years, it will emerge as all his friends and friends with benefits will age and begin families, while he and his mistresses and bonded will still be young even after a century. Harry, you will need to live in the present then, but not forget to look towards the future. Dumbledore replied, You're right, there will be so many different women to taste in the future. Harry almost drooled at the thought. Harry! Daphne shouted, pretending to be mad. How can you be talking about other women when I'm right here? But Daphne, you should be proud of the number I will bid. It means you caught me in the end. Harry jokingly replied, before mumbling, Even if you had me to begin with. Young love. Dumbledore couldn't help saying that. From preteens to those in their 50s were all young in his century eyes. Waving his hand, he deflected to stun her that both Harry and Daphne snapped at him, chuckling even if he was slightly impressed at their wandless magic. Even if they had a few extra decades, it wasn't something that many master or attempted to master. Moving on. Shall we begin? Yes. And now time to put the Horcrux in the center. Harry picked up Rowena Diadem, which he received about an hour ago, and sat it where 3 lines converged, flowing the black lines out. A semi-large circle formed out of countless runes. However, there were 3 smaller circles that formed a triangle. Placing the diamond down, Harry made his way to the only circle left, as Daphne and Albus already covered the other 2. Now, the moment of truth, as they say. Harry chuckled. Indeed, you two better be careful, as I don't want to explain what happens if something does, Daphne said, sending a glare at the 2 men before her, straightening their backs as it was the glare all men fear from women, no matter the age. This will be draining as we will be calling fragments from all over Britain. So be careful as we can't fail or it will be disastrous, Harry warned. Nodding to his warning, each drew their wands and placed in front of their chest with the tip pointed upwards, with both hands wrapped around their handles like knight statues. I summon thy soul fragments of Tom Marvolo Riddle to come and gather, the trio chanted in sync. As they repeatedly chanted, the runes surrounding them slowly lit up as it followed the lines towards the diadem. Small beads of sweat began to form on Daphne's forehead as the continuous channeling of magic began to take effect. Across from her, Harry wasn't faring much better, but not from a lack of magic, but the fragment in his scar. As the fragment tried to hang on, it was soon ripped from Harry's head with black tar running down his face. Unable to clutch his head or wipe it away, Harry continued to chant as they watched the fragment combine with the diadem. Soon following that example, more pieces of black fog came rushing into the castle before combining with the diadem. However, the main soul fragment was still out there as they had no way to summon it. Come forth and be banished. The trio chanted once. All the pieces combined. Slowly, a slightly large black soul rose with cracks running throughout. It was like a sad attempt at repairing a cup with glue and tape. I will not be beaten, the soul screamed. I am Lord Voldemort, and I am immortal. However, despite it crying, the soul soon vanished as it dissolved. Once it was clear that it was gone, The trio let out a sigh of relief as the ritual circle slowly dimmed down. Well, besides the large drain on our magic, I say it went pretty well, Harry laughed. Indeed, young Harry, indeed. Dumbledore nodded as he wiped sweat from his brow. I think I need a nap. I'm not a magic tichin like you two, Daphne said, before passing out. Catching her before he hit the ground, Harry quickly checked her over, nodding as it was just exhaustion. I think we can all use a nap. I wish, but I seem to have a stack of paperwork with my name on it. Dumbledore sighed but waved Harry goodbye for the time being. In another part of Britain, a soul was currently screaming as it felt its other soul pieces banished. Harry Potter, I will get you for this. A week after the ritual was completed, Harry was currently sitting in Dumbledore's cottage drinking tea with the aged wizard. Daphne headed home the following morning, and the two men decided to relax away from Hogwarts. So, Harry, forgive this old man's curiosity, but now that one of your biggest goals has been completed, what do you plan to do now? Dumbledore asked as he sipped his tea. Thinking for a moment, hobbies for the most part, and investigating who owned that laboratory in the Forbidden Forest. Maybe prank the Weasley a bit more and get my godfather free. Nodding so slightly, Dumbledore stroked his beard in thought. Have you given any thoughts of graduating this year? I have actually, and I decided to do it next year. If the Triwizards is still on, it is still in the works. I believe so. It is as far as I know. Dumbledore nodded. So how are your Dragon Balls coming along? Smiling as he pulled out a bag, Harry sat it on the table and opened it. A bright orange orb rolled out and had a slight eternal glow to it. However, there was no red star inside alongside some uneven edges. While it still needs a bit of work and fine-tuning, it is coming along pretty well. I believe my ratio is a bit off with the glowworms and magnets rocks. Picking the ball off the table, Dumbledore studied for a few moments. I believe you also need a harder rock. Some of the materials weakened it. To demonstrate his points, Dumbledore's hand lightly squeezed the ball. Like a toy, the ball deformed as it popped out between his fingers. However, as he released the pressure, the orb quickly returned to normal. Yeah, now it's like a stress ball, Harry agreed. Recently, I learned that another village has been destroyed. This time, however, bodies were drained of their youth and blood. The Aurors believe it is the same culprit as last time. With all abilities and combinations of different magical beasts, which include vampire blood as far as I know, it may require blood and youth to balance the conflict between the bloods. Harry hummed. Were there any survivors, so we may have a description of the culprits? There were a couple, I believe, but Fudge quickly had their memories erased due to being a squib and a muggle, I believe. Of course he did. Harry sighed at the current minister ideals. If he says it doesn't exist, it clearly doesn't, despite the bodies and all the evidence saying otherwise. In truth, Minister Fudge may have had good intention at the beginning, but once gold landed in his hand, he quickly strayed from his path and surrounded himself with those with bad ideals, his undersecretary clearly being one of them, as she carries out hits in his name. I should get rid of Umbridge before she causes more trouble. Should I send an anonymous letter saying she has a dark object, or just send a death curse? Harry thought, not really caring as he planned Uzzum's death. To him, he couldn't picture Umbridge as a person, but a beast that needs put down. Humming in thought for a moment, a small grin formed as he found a perfected solution. Harry, in the end, decided to give her a taste of her own medicine. While brewing Moondew was out of the question, sending a werewolf to her wasn't. There is a small gang of werewolves and organizations that I had to end in the future up and running, so a small letter and a few gold coins are in order. Harry thought, with his future knowledge coming in handy once more. Should I ask what you are thinking about? Probably not. Dumbledore could only shake his head as the two continued drinking their tea. In a low-key tavern in Nocturne Alley, a man in his early 30s read a letter while slipping a small pouch into his robe. A grin couldn't be kept off his face as he finished reading, standing up and leaving as his black robe drifted behind him, the man apparition away, after exiting. Arriving at a warehouse, the man rapidly walked inside, straight past two large men with bulging muscles. Both carried weapons around their waist and wore intimidating faces. Boss? We got a job. John, you don't need to shout, but this is a huge job. Almost 100 galleons can be made in one go. Truly, what is the job? Tossing the letter on the table alongside the gold, a man in his late 40s scanned it. Instead of smiling like the man, he frowned. This is troubling. The full moon is in a few days. The man sat the letter down in thought for a moment. Send Avery and Kyle to scope her house. While it's slightly rushed, we might be able to pull this off. You got it, boss. A few days passed by since Harry sent the letter, and he currently laid about in the dirt. As the full moon rose overhead, he didn't have Katie there to play with, so he was being lazy as he awaited the full moon to pass by. His thoughts, however, were wondering if that gang would be able to do it or not. Well, the Daily Prophet will surely report it if it succeeds or fails, Harry thought as he watched owls fly through the night sky hunting for their meals. While Harry was listlessly passing the night elsewhere, it wasn't so peaceful. In Umbridge's house, screams of terror could be heard as the woman in question panicked. When she woke up to get a glass of water, she looked out her window to see 10 werewolves rapidly approaching. Running to her fireplace, she tried to leave or call for help, but found her floating network disconnected. She forgot that she ordered her floating network to be upgraded for the quarter of the cost. Thus it was down at the time. Bringing out her wand, she snarled as she heard her door break down as her wards she cast fell quickly. "Bring it on, Mutts!" she screamed, but her wand never fired a single spell. She was instantly tackled and mauled. Her screams filled the night sky, but across the country, everyone unconsciously smiled, all feeling it will be a great day tomorrow. While sipping on his morning coffee in a mundane cafe, Harry was reading the local newspaper. He had a hard time keeping his laughter in, as it covered Umbridge death. While it was a bit bad that the Maine got to her before ours, luckily it was a squib with a grudge against her and reported it as a wolf attack. Now besides a small rumor of her house just appearing, a group of hunters were patrolling the forest, all looking for the pack of wolves that killed the unknown woman with no records about herself. Was it necessary to tell about her unhealthy obsession with pink? Harry thought with a shiver. And cats. It's such a shame to be killed by a pack of wolves, Harry heard as he sat down on his paper. Across from him was a relatively young brown-haired woman in her early 20s. Her violet eyes held a bit of sadness as she read another copy of the newspaper. As she sat the paper down, he could see her beautifully shaped, curvy frame. I wouldn't be sad for her. She was cruel and sadistic with no problem harming school children if it fit her agenda. Oh, did you know her? The woman asked. Sadly, like many others, I had the misfortune of knowing her. Harry sighed as he remembered being tortured by her and having to track her down for a Horcrux. I'm sure she wasn't that bad. The woman said. She was worse, actually, but let's not get into that. Now let's talk about something more pleasant. Who are you? Sorry, I am Venilana Lovegood. Lovegood? Are you related to Luna Lovegood? Venilana paused for a moment and looked him up and down before landing on a very faded scar on his forehead. Her eyes widened before a crimson blush formed on her cheeks. I can't believe I was going to seduce a 12-year-old, she mumbled to herself, that Harry only caught due to his sensitive hearing. She is a second cousin, or was it third? Anyways, she is a cousin of mine. Venilana coughed once before smiling at him innocently. That interesting, as I don't remember Luna having a cousin Venilana. Then again, she didn't talk much about her family, much less seconds or third cousins. Harry thought but put it to the side for now. Well, since your last name is Lovegood, do you make good love? Harry had to forcefully stop himself from cringing. It was a good thing neither Fleur or Daphne were here, or they would never let him live that pick-up line down. Since he was immortal, that would be a very long time. Was it worth the cringe? Venilana asked, cringing herself. I don't know, did it work? Venilana giggled before scanning the shop. Yeah, I don't really see much prey here besides you. Though I am going to pretend you're older than you are. I'm a 50-year-old time traveler. I don't care if you pretend I am older, Harry thought as he smiled at her. However, a small thought entered his head on why she was fine sleeping with someone so young, even if they looked barely legal. While Harry was wondering if there was something wrong with the woman, she, on the other hand, was in full panic, wondering Auror or Muggle police were going to hunt her down. Why in the world did she agree to sleep with him, much less say there were no other prey around? She didn't know why, but she'd just drawn him almost like a spell was cast on her. Don't panic now, Venilana. Maybe we will finally lose our virginity after all these years, Venilana thought as she cheered herself on. If it wasn't for the strange attraction to Harry, Venilana would have never considered sitting at his table, much less talking to him. The truth was, she had borderline crippling shyness and was often afraid, or quiet, making men lose interest very quickly. So to avoid embarrassing or being looked at, she usually just holes up researching magic by herself at home. "Feel free to think whatever you want," Harry said, as he folded his paper up. Standing up, Harry frowned slightly as his sensitive nose could smell her nervousness. While he thought why, he wasn't able to come up with anything as to why. She seemed natural, like she has done this a couple times before. Well, finding a date and not sleeping with a random man on the street. "You're lucky that you look hot," Harry thought before mentally bashing himself. "Stop it, Harry. You don't need to sleep with every single beautiful woman. I believe there is a mall nearby. I need to pick up some books." "Do you want to join?" Harry asked, holding out his hands. "Going to a Muggle's mall. I have never been to one so sure." Venelana smiled as she grabbed his hand. Once their fingers touched, she felt his warmth and a tingling feeling well up inside of her. After leaving the cafe, Harry led her over to the mall, or more importantly, the bookstore. There he grabbed the latest volumes of Dragon Ball. "What are you grabbing?" Venelana asked, a bit curious. "Manga." Harry shrugged. "Basically Japanese version of American comics. Do you want to get one or a different book?" Nodding as her curious side was spiked, Venelana looked over the current selection. While there were less than there were in the future, and many titles that have yet to be created, there were still some classics in Harry's opinion. "I will try this one," Venelana said, holding Ranma 1-2. "It looks interesting." Studying the series name for a moment, Harry vaguely recalled the series. It is about a boy, while training with his father, who both fell into a magical pool of water, while his father would turn into a panda when water was poured on him. Ranma would turn into a girl. That happens a bit before the series began, where Ranma finds himself in a marriage contract. While he did watch a bit of it, Harry himself couldn't really get into it. So in the end, he dropped the series, but Fleur found it funny and liked it. "Maybe I should send a copy to Fleur." Harry thought for a moment before grabbing a copy. Too bad Daphne's series won't be made for another 20 years. After paying for the books and receiving a weird look from the cashier for buying 2 copies of the same series, he left as the manager began lightly scolding the cashier, who was apparently new. "What next?" When Venelana asked, Harry thought for a moment and remembered he needed some clothes. Most of his clothes are getting worn out from his monthly transformation throughout the school year. Clothes. Harry shrugged before heading towards a cheaper shop. After all, it would be pointless to spend big on clothes that may become unusable after his transformation. Venelana, who was following, looked at him strangely as she knew that the Potters were well off, but stayed quiet on why he was looking through cheaply made clothes. Everyone had their secret. Grabbing a few pairs of pants and shorts with plain-colored shirts, Harry ended the shopping trip with Venelana, who was a lot more comfortable around him, which was the main goal for the outing. "Soon we will feast on those delicious jugs," Harry thought before mentally bashing himself again. "I need to keep my ego in check." Not far behind him, Venelana was blushing as she had thoughts along the same line. "So, in the end, you didn't sleep with her?" A blonde-haired teen answered with her blue eyes staring in a slight disappointment. It was a few days after Harry's friendly date with Venelana, and Harry was meeting Daphne for a lunch date. He has just finished going over his meeting with Venelana and the fact he didn't sleep with her. Well, everything was fine, but she popped away like a frightened bunny. "Do you think she was a virgin?" "I think so." While she tried to put on a brave mask, you could smell the fear coming off her in waves. Daphne's slight disappointment was quickly redirected as she just shook her head. In fact, her disappointment turned into a bit of amusement as this Venelana Lovegood got her attention. Besides giving up a chance to sleep with Harry Potter after a small date, she might have a brain. "Well, not everyone will sleep with a minor, especially one that will turn 13 soon," Daphne commented. Yeah, if Tonks wasn't lost in her lust, she wouldn't have agreed the first time. The second time was she just didn't care anymore. Harry nodded in agreement. "So how much time do you have until you return?" "Calm down, horn dog. Mother and I are going shopping right after this." Daphne shook her head. "Also, it's a bad day to do it." Oh, Harry sighed, but didn't really mind. He will get his bi-weekly fill in a couple days anyways. "Has anything interesting happened to you lately, Harry?" Daphne asked. Harry thought for a moment before shaking his head. Besides studying and nearly finishing his water phoenix form, not much has happened. Due to Umbridge's unfortunate death, a quick change in politics took hold. Dumbledore, using the shift, took the chance to review some laws she made or supported and began the process of repealing them. As for the unknown man that began wiping out villages, he was strangely quiet. This made Harry both pleased and annoyed, as it could mean either they died or planning something big. There was also a chance they moved to somewhere else, but that unlikely. Most wannabe megamanics he met tend to want to conquer their homeland first. Has anything interesting happened to you? Besides, seeing the effects of us coming back in time, the business deal my father that originally fell through was successful this time. I also noticed that trend, though it is mostly subtle. Harry once again nodded. Well, it's not like we didn't know this would happen. Time is fickle after all. Daphne just nodded, letting out a small sigh. True, so have you gotten in touch with Tonks? I have, but since coming back from France and finishing out the school year, she has been pretty busy as Amelia has her working to the bone, so she hasn't had any time to do much else. Have you at least stayed in touch with Katie and Susan? Yeah, I am meeting Katie in a few days, and Susan, she said she is mostly going to spend time with Hannah this summer. She did mention that she wants to play in a week, though. Daphne just nodded as she pulled out the grimoire they made with Fleur. He saw that quite a few pages were added since he last saw it. You've been busy, Harry praised her for making her smile. I got most of the spells and knowledge recorded I researched lately, so next is your turn. Daphne puffed her chest out in pride. True, but I haven't really done much besides expand my knowledge on alchemy, Harry replied, picking up the slightly cursed object. Looking at the wolf wearing a slightly slanted crown as its eyes cast a light hypnosis, some of the pages lit up as it began recording knowledge it didn't hold before. What a greedy book. It even recorded mostly finished spells, Harry said lightly as he opened the section with at least 10 spells listed. The 10 listed were some random thoughts he had or was near completion, just need some fine-tuning. They also happened to be pranking spells he was working on for the coming year. Since the coming year where nothing much will happen, he decided to torment the Weasleys. Harry, why were you making a spell to turn a male into a female for an hour? Daphne looked at him strangely. You wouldn't be thinking about using it on yourself, are you? No, it was just a prank I was going to pull on the twins. Maybe turn one into a female while adding a tad love potion to his drink that linked to the other twin. Harry mumbled, making Daphne slap his arm. Harry, wouldn't that be better on Ginny and Ron? Taken back in thought, Harry slowly nodded, as this year Ron should explode with jealousy. It just Harry didn't know how, as he doubted it would be the same way as before with the firebolt. Since Harry plans to clear his godfather name and there will be no soul-sucking monster around the school, he shouldn't lose his current broom. Looking at the time, Harry sighed as their lunch date came to an end. Well, I still got a few months to plan. Take care, Daphne. Giving her a small kiss, both left the shop and went their separate ways. In a small forest, a soul that was in endless pain as it milled over on its plan of resurrection. However, as the searing pain and being bodiless made it difficult, Harry Potter, I take pleasure as I slowly torture you to death. The soul roared. Snap! Nearby, a twig could be heard snapping, alerting the soul fragment of Tom Riddle. Something nearby. Coming out of the bushes was a man with deathly pale skin and blood-red eyes. At first, Riddle thought it was a vampire, but the withering skin and smell of pained look told him otherwise. Who are you? Tom demanded. A soul. It must be a Horcrux user. The being sneered. Judging by your size, you split your soul multiple times. Both impressive and idiotic. How dare you call me an idiot? I am Lord Voldemort. As a soul, Tom didn't have much fighting power, but he wasn't totally without options. Judging by his appearance, the man looked mostly dead, so Tom decided to take the chance and gain a body, even at his near death. Trying to take my body, I am a perfect being. The man sneered when he saw the soul fragment attempting to possess him. However, unknown to the man, due to being in a nearly dead state, and his abilities taking a toll on his body, what he may have originally able to resist now couldn't. So, like a candle, his soul was swallowed by the fragment and his body rapidly repaired itself. Thus, what he hoped to achieve was stolen by Tom Riddle unknowingly. I got a body. Just you wait for Harry Potter. I am coming for you. Riddle laughter echoed throughout the forest, scaring away all nearby birds. Outside Dumbledore's cottage, a black-haired teen could be seen working on a picnic table. At first glance, it appeared he was studying with the amount of books and papers on the table. If one looked more closely, however, they would see vials with skulls, smoking, or blood-red liquid. The teen in question was Harry Potter, famous throughout the world for surviving the killing curse. He was currently in the middle of an important and not done on a whim experiment that may or may not explode. Add a touch of dragon blood and a drop of mine, Harry whispered as he dropped him into a smoking vial. The smoke seemed to form a skull and a pair of crossbones. Moments later, a loud hiss and squealing could be heard like someone letting air out of a balloon. Oops. Boom. Waving the dust of the front of his face, Harry coughed a few times. His once clean clothes and slightly messy hair was now covered in black dust and spiked towards the sky. The grass in the general surrounding also began to rapidly wither away. Luckily, I casted a few protective charms on the books and table. Harry laughed. Not at all fazed by the explosion. Truthfully, a bit of soreness and some scratches was all he got from the explosion. Harry, are you okay? Dumbledore called from the cottage. Yeah, I'm fine. Just a small miscalculation. Did I add a drop or two more of dragon blood than needed? Harry thought. Dragon blood tends to react badly to others and has a slight corrosion effect to metal. Luckily, however, it tends to be non-reactant to human skin. Or was it the moon leaf? A frown appeared as he was getting low on and couldn't get more until the new moon. While recording down the latest explosion and the entire process, Harry felt like banging his head on the table for a simple fact. Of course, his blood would react badly to the moonleaf and dragon blood. While the two Bodas seemed to be fighting, the moonleaf wasn't enough to mellow them out. However, I can't simply add more moonleaf, or the entire material amount is unbalanced. Harry rubbed his chin and thought, what happens if I remove my blood from the formula? Harry suddenly thought and went to work calculating. At a fairly decent rate, he finished and found it can be done, but has a high chance of not working properly. In the end, though, Harry decided to try it and fine-tune it at a later date. Well, here goes nothing. Relighting the flame, he got to work mixing, cutting, and stirring his ingredients. Once again, making it to the last step. Without a violently looking potion this time, Harry carefully added the dragon blood before pulling out a metal cast. Pouring it in, he carefully placed it into a nearby cooler. In an hour, it should be ready, Harry said, before stretching. Now time to grab the other part of my project. Entering into the cabin, Harry glanced at Dumbledore, who was napping in his chair that faced out towards where he was working. Shaking his head, Harry just smiled before looking for a small dragon model. Finding it on the coffee table, a silverish blue 2-foot-high dragon appeared. He modeled it after the Ukrainian Iron Belly in the vault mines. Only it didn't turn out to be a copy, as he wasn't skilled enough, so it only looked like the breed. In the center of its chest, however, was a long, thin diamond-shaped hole. Picking up the dragon model, Harry went back outside before cleaning up. He had an hour to wait before he could see if his idea worked or not. If it worked badly, however, he doesn't want his research or books he borrowed to be destroyed. Soon, an hour came and went, allowing Harry to pull the metal cast from the box of ice. Pulling open the cold box, Harry looked at the red diamond-shaped rod. Carefully picking it up with a pair of tongs, he slowly inserted it into the model. The two parts began rapidly shaking as the two merged with a glowing diamond appeared on the dragon chest. Its eyes turned to a red hue as the tail slowly began moving alongside its body. A small chirp was heard as creaking from its joints moved for the first time. It's alive! Harry shouted as he fist-pumped the air. He had done it and built his own automaton dragon. While the robot was only a couple feet tall and didn't have much attacking power, he felt proud at making it, as this type of magic won't become popular for another 20 or so decades. Something about golems and autonomous being too muggle or mundane, so most magicians hesitate or refuse to research them. Besides, with magic and house elves basically able to make everyday life easy, this old project has made small progress over the centuries. Impressive, Harry heard Dumbledore's voice from behind him. Does it do anything? It can bite, but it will be like a small dog. There is a slight problem of not being able to fly. I originally had plans to use my blood as a medium to give it a boost of mitch to fly, Harry explained. The issue is the core exploded and its current magic will only keep it moving for a year at most before it needs a recharge. Impressive nonetheless, Harry. The two watched as Hedwig swooped down and began taunting the mechanical dragon. They got a slight chuckle as she basically taunted the newborn with being able to fly. Well, I got a while to think of how to fix the issue. By then, I might also add some fire breaths or other abilities. It should be a slowish year for me this coming school year. I can't wait to see it. Dumbledore nodded. Me too. Before Harry realized it, a year had passed since he alongside his lover returned to the past. The final month before his third year of Hogwarts began, once again, besides a few more dates with Venolana, hanging out with Daphne and Katie, and a week in France with Fleur. Harry lost himself in researching automaton. According to Dumbledore, he has a slightly higher talent to this than even Data, which was impressive since not many could match his talents in that category. Also, with the Horcrux removed, should have increased a bit more. Dobby! Harry called out. A moment later, an energetic house elf appeared ready to serve. Over the summer, he managed to free Dobby and bind him, sending Lucius Malfoy a pair of woman underwear from his fake mistress. One way or another led to Dobby being free. The great Harry Potter called. Dobby smiled proudly. I am in need of more parts again. Could you fill the bin again from the usual spot? Harry asked. Nodding in acceptance, Dobby vanished alongside a red bin. The usual spot was just an abandoned junkyard, which he bought fairly cheap. A large pile of scrap metal he could use for research or reuse. It was a worthwhile investment in Harry's opinion, especially when he discovered a certain aspect in a certain spell. It turns out with the repairing spell Hermione used on his glasses the first time they met actually reverses time. This allows him to use rusted out parts reshaping or using them once more, saving him time and money. As for why it doesn't work on humans or animals, Harry theories it does, just on one cell out of the trillions more. Thanks, Dobby, Harry said as the elf vanished after reappearing. Looking over the bin, Harry quickly saw what Dobby gathered and saw a bunch of lights. There were also a bunch of screws, bolts, and the like alongside some tubing. A few thoughts ran through his head as he wondered what to make next. Then should I make an exoskeleton? It might come in handy if I make a humanoid automata and I could use the experience. Harry hummed as he remembered a Canadian making one. He ended up on several news channels and a few years later opened his own engineering workshop, all while inspiring more to become engineers with his videos he posted online. With a bit of magic, it wouldn't be clunky either, Harry thought as he began drawing out his plans and design. While he began a very basic design similar to the first Iron Man suit, he began making some changes and adding different features such as a wand holder or magic battery. Since he was sure he could use alchemy to make one, due to not having an arc reactor laying around, nor knowledge to make one. Alchemy could take care of most of the heavy physics which I am not good at. The question now is, can I find materials strong enough and flexible? Harry thought of his next roadblock. The last thing he needs is the suit burning out from the influx of magic running through it or exploding. Since if makes an automatonod, he doesn't want to worry about it randomly exploding, taking its surrounding with it. The only reason my dragon automata should be able to fly or breath fire is because of the size and small amount needed. After all, it just needs a small spark to ignite the lighting fluid I can add easily and to maintain its levitation for flying. Harry watches his mechanical dragon chasing its tail. If I use the same material for my size or even bigger, it would burn out in seconds of starting. As Harry's finger tapped the desk as he tried to think of a solution, a certain aged wizard walked up behind him. When looking over the drawing, he was puzzled and lost as he understood their blueprints and that all the numbers and how the parts fit puzzled him and curious. It's nice to see that even at my age, I can learn something new, Alba said. Indeed, I am really only learning the subject now. Truth be told, I figure it could be a subject to research throughout this coming school year, Harry said as he puzzled over his current blueprints. Changing topic. Have you found a replacement for Daddy yet? An old friend has agreed to come teach. While his speciality and fame is for magical creatures, he does have the necessary skills to teach Data, Dumbledore said. The only one that came to Harry's mind was Newton Scamander, who wrote Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. His next was what had Dumbledore offered to get the old man to agree. Since last Harry knew the man was enjoying his retirement. Oh, before I forget, don't forget your automata dragon. Newton is interested in seeing it, Dumbledore said before walking away, shrugging, as he was already planning on bringing the dragon along, since he doubted Dumbledore would have a cottage left if he didn't. The metal beast has already chewed through 5 pillows and the legs on the kitchen table, so in 9 months or so it wouldn't be a stretch for it to thoroughly destroy the entire cottage. "Oh, yeah, we should probably name it," Harry said, mostly to himself. "Let's just call it Teddy." Nodding at the name, Harry went back to work and began resigning and ideas on how to make it. As such, time began to slip away from him, with hours turning into day and finally the end of summer break. The thought of the new year beginning filled Harry with excitement as he has a new plan and large prank in store. "I wonder if the Daphne will find it funny with what I got planned," Harry thought as 7 orange orbs resonated with each other. His 7 self-made Dragon Balls were completed and led to an interesting idea. "Oh, I can't wait." It was a slightly chilly morning when Harry woke up with a large yawn, his bones cracking as he stretched out after rolling out of bed. Tripping over Teddy, he tumbled out of the room with a loud bang. Ow! Entering the dining living room, Harry found Dumbledore just lightly laughing at his slight misfortune. However, Harry's emerald eyes instantly locked onto the newspaper in his hands, since on the cover, a very important piece was on the cover. "Sirius Black has escaped Azkaban. The minister isn't going to be placing Dementors around Hogwarts again, will he?" Harry asked with a small yawn. "He was thinking about it, but I managed to persuade him otherwise with Amelia Bones," Dumbledore replied as he lightly sipped his black coffee. "It seems, since the death of Dorlitz Umbridge, Forge has been using his head for other things besides how to look good in front of the camera. Indeed. Though I wondered what change made it so she died this time as she was still living 4 decades in the future," Harry said. Dumbledore just stared at him, but didn't say anything. While he had a small hunch Harry knew he wasn't about to interrogate him, since, truthfully, he didn't have any good feelings for Umbridge either. Now the question is, will Fudge believe us this time or choose the easy route and just deny it? Harry asked, thinking back. He could remember the time he tried to say Sirius was innocent, but due to Snape, the minister just said he and Hermione were confused children and left, which forced him back to the Dursleys once more instead of his godfather's place. "Harry, you should trust me. I have been gaining some support over the last year while you have been sleeping around," Dumbledore answered with a small sparkle in his eye before speaking dramatically. "All those young maidens being poisoned by your claws. I will let you know, most weren't virgins, since I mostly aim for the older students and those that are virgins. Well, their legs are locked tighter than a dragon guarding its eggs. I didn't need to know that," Dumbledore grumbled, which made Harry smile. He enjoyed their small banters as it was entertaining, even if both learned something useless from the other. For example, Dumbledore, despite being gay, kept it a few Playthwizard and Playboy magazines, though they'll mostly just sit on the shelf in the living room. Those magazines weren't any good either. Most of those models are over 50 with kids or grandkids in or about to enter Hogwarts. Why does he have to keep such out-of-date magazines? Harry thought sadly. Truthfully, he was a bit excited when he saw them and took a look through them, but in the end, he was disappointed that he had to have Flora send him up-to-date ones and a few personal photos. Luckily, she didn't disappoint him with some of those photos. Harry are drooling. "I'm just thinking of Flora's gift she sent me." Dumbledore wisely chose not to continue the topic. He learned that while Harry sleeps around, he is very protective of his lovers and wives. Saying something bad about them would send Harry into a spiral of grumpiness for the next few days after he beats you. "The new school year will begin in a few days. So much work to do," Dumbledore said as he got up. "A year to research automata. I wonder if Hogwarts got any books on the subject." Harry rubbed his chin. It also has been a while since any news of the mysterious wizard surfaced. Did he die or go into hiding? I'm not sure. There isn't any news of any villages being wiped out. Dumbledore frowned. It is worrying to say the least. You might want to start asking around in nearby countries. There is no guarantee that he would even stay in magical Britain. I already have, and there is nothing, Dumbledore replied, making a silence fall between them. We can only wait, it seems. A sad nod came as waiting meant more bodies of all ages. However, there wasn't anything they could do. A few days passed by since that conversation, and before Harry realized it, he found himself sitting on the Hogwarts Express, waiting for Daphne and Katie to appear. When he heard the door open, he assumed it was them and looked over the book he was reading. Neither blonde or dirty blonde filled his eyes, but 2 redheads, and not of the right ones, either. Ron and Ginevra Weasley were in the entrance before taking a seat. "Harry, mate, you didn't respond to any of my letters this summer," Ron said. "I'm sorry, Ron, but I've been pretty busy this summer and didn't really have time to respond," Harry lied smoothly. While Ron just nodded, his sister didn't look convinced as she sat there silently blushing. She appeared ready to slap him, but couldn't break her act, or Harry thought. In the end, though, he was not a mind reader. And even if he was, the thought of entering her head, it was enough to turn him green for a week. Why are you sitting with me? Harry asked straightforward. By the end of the year, or even the middle of the year, him and Ron drifted apart for the most part. While he would chat with him once in a while, it was more of an acquaintance than a friend. Now Ron was treating him as if they were best buds again. What are you talking about? Ron asked, as if confused by the question. Shaking his head, Harry stood up. I'm going to the washroom. Giving him a thumbs up, Harry left the compartment and looked for another one. After traveling 5 compartments down, he found Daphne heading towards him and another empty compartment. A smile blossomed as right behind her, Katie also appeared with hearts in her eyes. My alpha. Katie dove past Daphne and clung herself around Harry's body as she drooled at his smell. I missed you so much. Thank you, Katie. Harry greeted as he peeled her off and placed his palm gently on her cheek. It has been a while since we met again. Katie nodded. She is like a dog reuniting with her master. Daphne jokes. Nice to see you again, Daphne. We saw each other less than 2 weeks again, and it felt like forever, Harry dramatically said. Aha! Daphne rolled her eyes before opening up the empty compartment. Shall we? A grin appeared on 3 different faces. Inside an empty classroom the following day after the opening feast, 3 figures were inside. Between them, as they formed a triangle, were 7 orange orbs with varying red stars inside. Next to the 7 orbs, an empty journal sat open with a quill and ink jar. Now, which one of you wants to write the details? The Weasleys and Hermione will know my handwriting even if it changed, Harry said as he looked between Daphne and Katie. Truthfully, he would have just gone with a self-writing quill or spell, but it wouldn't work. Daphne was the one to point out that if he decided to make the legend of the Dragon Balls 400 years old, then neither the spell or self-writing quill were around, then which would be suspicious. While the entire prank plan is suspicious, Harry doubts that any of the Weasleys will pay much attention to it. Well, the twins would, and maybe Percy, but Ron and Ginny, once they read grants any wish, then they would try everything to hunt down all 7. It was when they get Hermione involved on purpose, or accident it might come to light. Since that would ruin his fun, watching the squad of redheads running around the castle looking for the orbs, they definitely can't have it ruined before it begins. I will do it. Katie bounced in her seat like a small child. Katie, you will need to fill in more than just the legend. Daphne pointed out. Will you be able to do it between schoolwork and Quidditch practice? I can do it at night, since I don't require as much sleep. Katie puffed out her chest. So you are giving up time to sleep with Harry? Just think, every morning for a few hours, with just him to yourself, his loving gaze and touch as he thrusts into you with long, thick strokes. Daphne whispered the devilish words, making Katie tremble at the thought. You want that, don't you? A small whisper was heard moments later. Yes. I want that. Great then, I will write it. Daphne clapped her hands. She should have just said she would do it. Why go through the effort of offering Katie something else? Harry thought before handing her the journal. Once it's done, give it back, and I will put it in the common room for Ron. I might charm it so only he can see it until he picks it up, Harry said, rubbing his chin. Maybe add something about only a chosen one can find the journal containing hints and the legend. You sure are asking for a lot. Daphne attempted to pout but looked adorable. Only because I know you will do an excellent job. Harry gave her a quick peck on the cheek. Unfair, Daphne grumbled as she blushed slightly. Katie, on the other hand, looked ready to devour Harry. Back again, Harry? Dumbledore asked as he leaned on the railing inside his office from the 2nd floor. Since it was one of his days with a small share of paperwork, he could relax a bit. Yeah. Harry sighed as he read a slightly thick tome on automata. It is about the only place I can research without Hermione breathing down my neck. For some reason, she thinks I am suddenly going drop dead or turn myself into a cyborg. Chuckling at his worries, Dumbledore just nodded. Yeah, Miss Granger seemed dead set on finding a cure for you. She even requested the healer course from Madame Pomfrey. I like living, so I will have to decline on a cure. Yes, but one shouldn't fear death, Harry. I don't, but that doesn't mean one should fear living long either. I suppose so, as death comes to everyone. It does, but mine just won't stay permanent. Harry sighed a bit. Now on to a better topic. I got a prank for the Weasleys, and I wonder if you want to join. Oh, do tell. Quickly explaining the prank and plan, Dumbledore agreed as he found it funny. So handing over the 5-star Dragon Ball, Dumbledore summoned a simple chain and wore it as a necklace. Do you have a plan on where you're going to place the others yet? Since the goal is to have them running throughout the castle all year, I'm planning on putting them in secret or well-hidden places, such as knight armor or out-of-the-way classroom. Harry answered, I will, however, be hanging on to some so they can't gather them all at once by some weird luck. Nodding and stroking his beard, Dumbledore agreed as he found it entertaining. To him it was a harmless prank and a scavenging hunt. On a different note, have the goblins contacted you about the Weasleys yet? Yeah, surprisingly, with the twins buying their own ingredients and winning the raffle, they just barely managed to go to Egypt and pay off their debts. Ron still has his broken wand, though. That good, Dumbledore nodded. Meh, it was more pocket change that they managed to take from me, so I wasn't all that worried. After a few more pranks and such, I will probably let them go as what they did is in the past, or will it be the future?
Whatever makes you satisfied.
I will be, but I get the feeling Daphne and Fleur mothers on the other hand won't be, so I will just allow them to plan and won't stop them. Harry shrugged. Hell has no fury like a mother's wrath, Dumbledore sagely said. Indeed, Harry nodded before changing topics. So instead of Dementors, we have Auror walking the place. Yes, and from Amelia, I was given a list of who was coming. Miss Tonks seems to be coming next week and agreed to be your bodyguard once more. A smile broke out as it had been a while since he saw her. I can't wait. It is fairly gloomy today, isn't it? A teen with messy black hair and emerald green eyes said. The teen looked around 17 with a slim build that is slowly filling out. In his black robe and beneath his long hair, due to lack of a haircut, a fairly handsome face peeked out as a yawn escaped his lips. Next to him was a beautiful girl with dirty blonde hair and chocolate brown eyes filled with love and loyalty. While her robe covered her figure, hints of her near-perfect physique, hints of it still appeared, especially as she wrapped herself around his arm, allowing him to feel her wonderful mounds through all the layers. Now that you say that, Harry, I am noticing that too, Katie answered while looking around. As they strolled through the corridor, they tried to figure out the cause, but couldn't. Even when asking the paintings, they didn't receive an answer as they didn't know. In the end, they could only wait and solve it later. Entering the Great Hall, expecting to find a few students as early it is, unexpectedly, it was nearly filled and hundreds of sad or slim few with happy eyes landed on him, only confusing him more as Hermione was also there with a rather large book of magical diseases. I'm telling you, he isn't dying. A loud voice filled the Great Hall, holding back anger and annoyance. There, a beautiful teen with long flowing blonde hair stood with piercing blue eyes. Her magic seemed ready to dance to her anger and annoyance as her wand glowed. Stop lying, Snake. Hermione heard you at the end of last year, Ron shouted, not missing a chance to diss the Slytherin house. I heard you saying he is not dying on you or someone named Fleur again, Hermione replied, ignoring the redhead. A slight blush formed across Daphne's face as she looked away, but still answered, that is the wrong form of dying. I meant it in a different way. Which way then? This is a serious life or death situation. Studying and massaging, Daphne answered, the female body. A round of laughter rang out among the older students as the gloomy atmosphere disappeared. Mostly among the boys, but a few females also joined in. He could only last for an hour or two before giving up. Daphne answered while hoping Harry won't mind a new rumor. Well, he might get a few offers, so I am sure he won't mind much. Better get my black book ready. With Daphne words, the laughter disappeared as fast as it came. Most boys blinked or looked at Harry as if he was a monster, their eyes mostly filled with envy or held a dead look as the girls looked interested in him. What is wrong with studying biology? Hermione asked, tilting her head. Due to being in study mode and recently taking up studying medicine, she didn't really catch the hidden meaning as it flew right over her head. Harry, are you currently dying? Katie asked him. I don't think so. Harry shook his head. I don't want to die a virgin if I am. Maybe someone can cure it. A loud burst of laughter filled the hall, while most of the girls he slept with rolled their eyes. However, a smile did break out on their face at the joke as they tapped their chins. Maybe another visit is in order to cure him of his virginity. With this while rumors circulated, Hermione just stomped her feet and glared. She held her book close as she looked determined to continue her research. Throughout the rest of the day, Harry found himself receiving too many offers that Daphne took over and created a schedule. She even left enough room for her or any other of Harry's lovers to hop in without creating a disturbance. As night rolled around and after a short nap, Harry woke up as the rest of the dorm slept. The sound of Ron's snoring filled his ears as he rolled off his bed. "Let's catch a rat," Harry thought as he spotted the fingerless brown rat. The rat was currently sleeping on the nightstand, completely unaware of its surroundings. Patches of his brown fur were falling out as stress of Sirius Black breaking out got to him. Not that it matters much to Harry, since the man didn't know of a bigger predator close by. For a traitor, he is not very cautious yet, Harry grumbled to himself as he picked up the rat. "Hello, Wormtail." The rat instantly froze at that name and furiously trembled while it wanted to escape. Sadly, want and reality were two separate things. The hold Harry had on him was like two immovable steel claws. "Aren't you excited that the world will know you're alive once more?" Harry whispered as he threw him into a cage. He prepared for this, hiding the cage in his trunk for the time being, till he can take it up to Dumbledore's office for safekeeping.
Now that is done. Time to track down Sirius.
Harry thought, but realized he didn't know if Sirius was even near Hogwarts yet. Walking down to the common room, he spotted Katie sitting there reading. She was still in her pajamas, with her hair tied back into a ponytail. Maybe a postpone in searching for Sirius is in order, Harry thought with a wicked smile. In the dead of night, the night breeze and cool air flowed into the 1,000-year-old castle. Inside a mostly empty hallway, the sound of small taps could be heard. Black fur and red eyes rapidly flew down the hallway, and then another, finally arriving at a blank wall with a troll dancing on the other side. A fairly large wolf trotted back and forth 3 times. Finally, a wooden door with a golden handle appeared slightly ajar, allowing the wolf inside. Closing the door with a power slap of his tail, the wolf transformed back. The black fur receded with the wolf popping up on 2 legs, revealing a muscular teen in black shorts. His messy hair pulled back and emerald eyes emerged from his red eyes. In front of him was a girl, wall blonde hair and blue eyes with a clipboard and watch. "Harry, your time has improved again," she said as she wrote down his time. "You nearly cut 3 minutes off your time. It will only continue to improve, I think. There doesn't seem to be a limit to how much my body can improve. I will say, your body has been bulking up lately, so I will say that your body has nearly finished making its changes and optimization. I wonder how much faster you will improve then." Daphne sighed. "However, I am curious about your red eyes. This is the first time they appeared. It might be that I finally reached my alpha status." Harry shrugged. "You have always been alpha, though. Did a change happen or something feel different this time?" Harry thought back to when he transformed and didn't really feel much besides a slight change. The change, however, wasn't physical, but more mental, if he had to guess. It felt as if he could temporarily boost his pack's physical state when they were nearby. He explained his thought to Daphne, who tapped her chin. "Maybe while we knew you were an alpha, your body hasn't reached the threshold for it yet. Now that it has, maybe a few perks are going to appear now. But there shouldn't be any perks or I would know or been told by John. Maybe the perks don't affect you. But your pack. While you may empower your pack for a short time, it doesn't really do much for you personally. So they might be more of a leader skill or buffing. Like in those video games when mages buff his allies and debuff his enemies." Harry nodded as that could make sense. While he, Daphne, and Fleur weren't much interested in video games, they still knew a bit about them, mostly because novels and mangas referenced them quite a bit, though it didn't stop them trying out a few games here and there. Exactly, though I wouldn't call it a skill you only can learn. Even if it is more mental, a leader like a general could do something similar. Boost their troops' morals or give them hope and haste they might not have had before. That is true. We need to test this ability out. However, the only one currently is Katie, though, and I don't feel like experimenting on her. Rocking on her heels, Daphne began racking her head. "I don't really see any other way unless you want to bite another person. Besides, it at most should only exhaust her as she is still young." Nodding, Harry asked a question that was slightly bugging him. "Now that's solved. What got you worried?" "I'm afraid. Even if I know you will always stand beside me. My body and heart is afraid you will leave one day." Daphne said after she hesitated for a moment. "I am afraid you won't like me or trade me in like old goods. Bursting out laughing, Harry just patted her head as he kissed her forehead. I could never give either you or Fleur up, just like Katie and Nymphadora or even Luna. Harry, when you're trying to cheer a woman up, don't throw out multiple names of other women. Daphne laughed while feeling better. Daphne, you have to remember that we are soulmates, as we are soulmates to Fleur. So you're stuck with me for the rest of your life, which by my understanding is a very time. Yes, my immortal husband, Daphne said as she brought his lips to his, giving each other a long and heartfelt kiss. They separated for a moment. While both would have loved to go further, Daphne needed to go to bed. Unlike Harry and Katie, she is still a normal human and requires 8 hours of sleep. Walking over to the bed that the room provided, Daphne changed into shorts and a plain pink t-shirt. She wasn't all that bothered with Harry watching or studying her body, which filled out a bit more over summer. Are you going to join or not? She asked. With a slight shrug, Harry just changed and laid down beside her. While he didn't require as much sleep, he could at least keep her company. Also, why would he turn down an offer of getting into bed with a beautiful woman and love her? Hours later, as he was sitting in the library with Daphne, they had their cursed grimoire sitting between them, while they were a bit troubled by the effects of it, as they couldn't take it out in crowded areas. It was still fairly useful to have. Harry, I received a letter from Fleur. She seems to have found a few female mistresses, Daphne said. I know, she even sent a few photos of them, Harry said while reading a book, not bothering to look up. While they can't compare to her or you, they are at least on Kated's level. You knew? Yeah, she is basically only for most of the year as we aren't close by. As a Vila, not letting out her desire or lust could be bad. So she told me about her idea and I agreed, Harry explained. If a male joins in, Harry's eyes turned blood red for a moment as he clenched his fist before he relaxed and eye turned to normal. However, Daphne got her answer and smiled. Do you mind if I get a few female mistresses? Daphne asked. I don't mind as it was only fair, I suppose. Harry said as she allows him to sleep with other women. Don't forget to invite me for some fun, some days though. Done, Daphne agreed. Truthfully, though I don't really plan on getting any mistress, playing in a threesome once in a while is enough for me. Now what should we do about this? Harry asked while nodding as he pointed to all the nearby females. They were all rubbing their legs while lust filled their eyes watching them. The grimoire appeared to become a lot more potent, the longer it out and in the same area. Let's put the book away for now, Daphne asked. Yeah, sitting on the windowsill. Harry watched as a silver-eyed girl skipped down the corridor, her blonde hair swaying with each skip and humming a merry tune. Underneath her arm was the latest Quibbler magazine. Morning, Luna. You seem in a happy mood. Ever since that spell Flitwick cast to keep the Nargles away, school has gotten better, Luna replied a bit spacey. Though some of my stuff will disappear for a while, but reappear and a girl would have polka dot hair. Is that so? Harry kept a kind smile on. Do you want to hang out today? Where's your usual trope? Busy. Come on, Katie. You have to study if you want to graduate early. On the table in the library, a tower of books sat between them. Off to the side of bubblegum, Hair Auror just shook her head as she read a charm book. This is too much, though. Katie, this is only one subject. You still have a lot more to cover, Daphne pointed out. A sad whine could be heard as Katie opened up the first book. Luna looked at him before she shrugged with a nod. I don't mind, Harry. What do you have in mind? Not much, just wanting to spend time with you, Harry replied. Let's see how many secret passageways we can find. Smiling as he hopped out of the window still, Harry took her hand as they walked off exploring. Neither were bothered by those watching them or a few call out, since Harry's friends would take care of it. Good to have friends and friends with benefits. Harry smiled as he sent a few a wink. For the next few hours, Harry and Luna dove into different corridors and staircases, some that haven't been used in decades or centuries according to the paintings, all the while having fun and peeking on some older girls bathing. While a bit sad, nothing happened besides some giggling and a few eyes full of their bodies. Harry wasn't too disappointed, while Luna just rolled her eyes at him, while she patted her growing body. Harry, do you like big or small chest girls? While I don't mind either size, I lean towards big chest girls, just not too big that they are disproportionate to the body, mind you. Those are a turnoff. Agreed. There is big then there is too big. Luna nodded in agreement. Harry stopped talking as he noticed something and had a feeling, while it was just a hunch and he didn't have much proof. Something felt a smudge off with Luna. She felt oddly more mature than last time, but her scent was the same, so he knew it was her, just more mature, almost similar to Daphne. Is it my imagination? Harry just wondered. While a thought played around in his head, Harry decided to investigate it at a later date. He didn't want to interrogate his friend, after all. Harry, what's on your mind? Nothing much, Harry shrugged. I'm just stumped on my latest research project. Your automata? Harry just nodded as he explained the part he was stuck on. The power source for larger builds. The drawing from the atmosphere was just too inefficient for them. As for building a core similar to what he put inside the mechanical dragon, it was more of the cost of building one, and if he failed once, it was a fairly large sum even for him. Why don't you use natural-formed mana crystals? They store an abundant amount of magic and recharge at a decent rate. Diamonds? Harry slapped his forehead. The answer was right in front of him, the whole time, and he was overlooking it. Thanks, Luna. You're the best. Of course. It seems that the Raxperts have left you alone now, too. Naturally, I have you to protect me from them. Luna just blushed at being praised. Later, as the day began winding down and Luna wandered off back to her dorm, Harry just wandered around until he ran across a worn-out Katie. She appeared to have overdone it while studying with Daphne. Or was it Daphne who pushed her into overdoing it? Harry thought. Katie, stop! He called out, but was too late. With a loud crash, he watched his nymphomaniac lover crash into the stone wall. A few cracks soon appeared on the wall. As Katie just rubbed her forehead, shaking his head, Harry walked over to her as he watched the cracks repair themselves. You have gotten stronger. I'm not as strong as you, though, Katie replied before letting out a yawn. There are many types of strength in this world, Katie. Physical strength is just one, Harry answered. Why don't you come relax as I give you a massage? I'm too tired for that, Harry. Blinking before he shook his head as he gripped her head. Oh, what I seek is the water cloud. Mazoy. Outside in the morning dew with only the tip of the morning sun on the horizon, a teen with black hair and green eyes was panting as sweat dripped down his face. He wore only a black pair of training pants, revealing his upper body. In front of his outstretched hand, a glyph with a large cross over a circle glowed dimly. As the glyph grew more solid, a fist-sized water ball slowly grew bigger. Finally, like a small stream of water, shot out over the black lake, only going 5 feet before falling. As the glyph faded, the teen sat down and took a few deep breaths. Using an unfamiliar magic and without a focus, took a large drain on his magic and stamina. Well, look at that. It worked, Harry said as he smiled a bit. While he could create a similar effect with a wand, Harry just wanted to try it out. The large drain on his magic and stamina, however, was something he took into consideration. Only he didn't think it would be that large. It felt like he ran a marathon and only trained the day before. Maybe with a bit of practice, it will be more efficient, Harry said to himself as he recovered fairly fast.
That truly impressive, Harry.
An aged voice came from behind him. Standing tall for his age, Albus Dumbledore stood there smiling at the magic just casted. Even at an advanced age, he enjoys seeing new magic and students learning and discovering its secrets. Well, legal magic and not the really dark arts, like a certain boy who grew into a dark lord. I'm more surprised it worked. I did, after all, just bring it out of a light novel, A Mundane Maid, Harry commented. I did have to check and research first, though. Magic is truly marvelous in that regard. New and exciting ways are being discovered. Even those that don't know magic exist. Yeah, but I can't really recommend this type yet. It takes a large toll on your magic and stamina at the moment. Then you must practice and research. Expand your knowledge and horizons, Dumbledore said. Why don't we make this your project? This year, besides your automata research, it's a bit cheaper too. Harry just nodded as the automata research is just a money sink hold without any sponsors or investors. He'd rather not put himself back into the position the Weasleys left him in last time around by his own doing. Well, Daphne, I believe, is looking to invest and open her own business once we are done at Hogwarts, Harry thought. I also have my junkyard to use, but it takes time changing the fets to the ones I need, so I can slow down my research for the time being, since I'm not lacking in time in the future. A few hours went by since Harry was training and testing out magic. While he could expect his magic to grow stronger due to the large amount he used, he could only take his time as rushing could be dangerous. Mad, however, wasn't time to worry about that. Besides him was a certain blonde-haired girl with blue eyes. "Harry, why do you have your broom with you?" Daphne asked. "I felt like going flying with you." She just shook her head as she followed along. She didn't have a problem with flying, and Harry just smiled, a rare and almost dazzling smile he gains every time he's on a broom. As they lifted off the ground, she felt one of Harry's arms wrapping itself around her waist. "Harry," Daphne said very plainly, "don't try to crop a feel while flying." Harry just whistled as if saying he didn't get caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Of course, as he spotted a smile on the corners of her lips, he figured she was just laughing at their ain'ts. Something not all that rare, yet brought a smile to him each time without fail. "Truthfully, Harry, what do you plan to do after Hogwarts this time?" To such a question, Harry was at a loss. Last time he aimed to become an Auror, but he already went and did it. Repeating it just didn't have any response, and becoming a researcher, truthfully, researching magic or anything is more of a hobby. He more or less just wants to try new things that interest him. "I guess to take you, Fleur, and those with a bond to me and travel the world, explore and discover anything that interests us. I'm sure it has nothing to do with wanting to try different women from around the world. Hey, bonus benefits aren't that bad. Besides, you are a bit excited about the thought too." "I'm so bored." Inside the Gryffindor common room, Harry was leaning back on the couch. The time was very early in the morning, and no one was up yet. Since Katie decided to study up in her room, he was left by himself. While this wasn't usually a problem for him, since he could practice magic, research, or work out, he grew bored of doing it every day for the last year. It sort of grew monotone for him, with the only breaks was when Katie came to him. "I can't even test out different magic ideas from the mangas or fictions," Harry grumbled. Outside, the roars of high winds and thunder penetrated the castle walls. While he wasn't afraid of the weather, it wasn't safe to go near the lake. The thought of testing some of the magic out inside the castle wasn't an option either. If an accident happened and someone got hurt due to it, even Dumbledore would have a hard time bailing him out. So he can only practice or figure out magic like body reinforcement, or low tier like forming a small mail in his hands. However, he sort of burned out on researching such magic, as even the reinforcement magic was more complicated than it appears. If done wrong, he could possibly cripple himself. Well, for a while at least. For such magic, it was more gauging the proper amount of magic the body can handle, as it either won't work or may shatter his bones and muscles. As for reading manga or practicing his wand crafting, he sort of caught up on all the series he was interested in and that are out in this time period. The wand crafting, on the other hand, was progressing fairly slowly, as it was another sinkhole when beginning. Between the wood, core, and tools replacement, it adds up to a rather fair sum of money. Even when cutting corners on cores, the wood and tools add up to a fair amount. Harry sighed, as tends to break most of his tools. Truthfully, he could just repair them with magic, but they can't be usable for the next few days, since the magic lingering on the tool could disrupt or mess with the wand being crafted. Well, that is what he learned from reading and experience. As of now, he has yet to craft a fully functionable wand. Some of the wands he has made either die after a few casts or so inefficient that it would be better to cast wandlessly, something that Daphne would tease him about from time to time about. "Daphne should be done with the journal so my prank can begin." While it took a bit longer than we estimated, it was only a few extra days, Harry thought, as he couldn't wait to see how they will collect all the Dragon Balls. He knew that he would need to be careful where he placed them, as Ginny and Ron would probably go to the extreme. Their greed was the biggest inside the Weasley herd and would be willing to do anything for them. While he was just drifting through his thoughts to pass the time, time flew by as everyone got up and prepared for their day, as such a very manly scream came from the boys' dorm. "Scrabbles, where are you?" Harry could only blink, as it took a while for Ron to figure out his rat gone. He took it days ago, and yet only now was the redhead freaking out about it. Thinking about it, Ron would often complain about the lazy thing, but did care for it. Didn't he also throw a fit, even after learning it was a grown man? And the traitor to my parents? Harry thought. Well, whatever. I will just catch a random rat and say I found it in the halls. While the day began to unfold, with both teachers and students shuffling throughout the castle, the storm outside has yet to stop giving Harry an idea. It was a pretty extreme and probably dangerous idea, but with his Vaughn, he couldn't resist the temptation. Inside the room of requirements, Harry began laying out an array in preparations. A large star formation was soon formed, encased by a large triangle. Once done, Harry stepped back, looking it over, before nodding. "I, who seek a contract with the spirits of water, summon you," Harry chanted, and watched as an ocean blue portal appeared. Stepping out of the portal was a man with light blue hair and long pointed ears. His dark blue eyes stared around in fascination before landing on Harry. "Is it you who summoned me, boy?" Growling at being called boy, but Harry managed to refrain himself. He might be a boy in the eyes of this spirit. "Yes, but who are you?" "Huh, you're the one to summon me, yet don't know who I am. I, the great spirit king of water, Stormy."
A spirit king. Not really what I was looking for, but I better not tell him that.
"Well, that's what I was in the past. Now you who have summoned me shall be the spirit king of water." Feeling something troublesome coming, Harry just had to ask, "Why? It has been centuries, and I decided who summoned me next shall be the next spirit king," the man said. "Who knows how long before someone summons me again?" Before Harry could answer or say something, a bright light engulfed him. Before dying down moments later, it was followed by a sigh and a certain grumble as Stormy pouted. "A true alpha and an immortal one summoned me. Why is my luck so bad?" He pouted before standing up. "Whatever, you shall hold the powers until one of your heirs inherit them." With his final words, he faded away with Harry clutching his head in agony. Information about the classes of water spirit and a few abilities he inherited, which made his water phoenix obsolete, as he can now glide through water as well, breath in as if he was on dry land. Finally, he could use water to heal himself rapidly, or others. It's kind of sad that the ability to control the weather or large bodies of water is out of reach due to not being a proper spirit king. I at least get to keep a few passive benefits that will stay even after I title and powers to my son or daughter who will inherit it, Harry thought with a shrug. Truthfully, he wasn't all that interested in being a spirit king as he already had his hands full. Being the alpha of a new breed of werewolves was already enough for him. Well, I guess I can add it to my list of titles. Which reminds me, I guess I should collect the 3 Deathly Hallows, even if I don't really need them. Harry thought as he began cleaning up. The Hallows, like Dumbledore guessed last time around, being top-tier enchanted items, were correct. Harry thought he could just use them in research or toys to play with. I wonder how Fleur and Daphne will react when I tell them. Harry chuckled at the scene he imagined. Well, after they get done scolding me for being reckless. It had turned out that Daphne nor Fleur were displeased. No, they were furious, as his whim could have killed him. While Fleur was more displeased and used the connected mirrors, Daphne was growling at him as a dangerous aura surrounded her. While he may be immortal, doesn't mean he can't be killed or reckless. He could just be resistant to aging and diseases, since they didn't know if he could regenerate a limb, much less his whole body. In the end, they decided to punish him in a way he would always remember, which was a tad harsh for the current him, but Harry didn't really have any room to complain. It's because they care, Harry told himself as he watched some older girls playing cards. In his office, Dumbledore was sighing as a fairly old book sat on his desk. There it was, explaining and known facts about summoning an elemental being. It explained the benefits and dangers with summoning one. I don't know if I should praise Harry or not for making history once more, the aged wizard thought. It shouldn't be possible for one to summon a spirit king, as all those that tried before died. The book explained how even summoning a high-level spirit was extremely rare and took a considerable amount of power and talent. Even then, it would usually leave the caster fairly drained, and the highest ever summoned at once was 5. Yet, even they only held a tiny portion of what needed to summon a spirit king, or Ta, was theorized. It is a good thing that Tom can't summon any. The spirits are hostile to those that mess with their own soul, much less split them. Dumbledore thought, I guess I will leave his punishment to his lovers. Now, Tom, what are you up to? Albus thought as he recalled Snape coming barreling into his office. On the Potion Master arm was the mark of the Dark Lord followers. While it has grown darker, it still has a ways to go. However, it indicated that Voldemort was on the move to reclaim his power. Something that worried him greatly, as this shouldn't be the case, according to Harry. Well, changing events will have this effect, and we did some pretty big changes according to Harry. Mostly for the better, but who knows for how long. Albus thought before tapping his finger. Now, the feign is, did Voldemort resurrect himself, and how? Despite all his knowledge, he couldn't pick out an option he knows that Tom would use. If had to pick an option, it would be the one he used last time around, that Harry told him about. The issue being, is he needs the blood of his enemy, and Harry really the only one that filled it. Tom had the habit of looking down on others, and didn't view those that opposed or he slaughtered as enemies. Maybe he found some other way. Albus thought, but decided to hold off until he could find some evidence. He at the moment can only theories based on the mark growing darker. Time will tell, either good or bad. Inside the Gryffindor common room, Ron woke up early for him as he walked down the staircase. As he looked around, he saw most of his friends studying or completing their assignments, which placed a frown on his face as he barely began his, and they're due in a couple days. As he scanned the room, his eyes naturally fell upon an orange orb with a red star inside of it. Next to it was a journal, with time taking its toll on it. Walking over to it, he picked it up and read the faded title, The 7 Wishing Orbs. Ron read, mentally as he flipped it open. There he was, drawn into the story. Daphne wove containing an adventure and search of a mysterious wizard from over 400 years. Once he read about the 7 orbs that will grant any wish. A large amount of greed suddenly awoken inside him as he grabbed the orb and shoved it into his robe. Ron rapidly looked around to see if anyone else noticed his action, but found no one paying attention to him. Letting out a small sigh of relief, he ran back up to his dorm room to investigate the journal more. If it grants any wish, I can have anything I want, Ron thought as he smiled happily. In the common room, Harry was laughing as he watched Ron action. The prank has gotten off to a great start.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fanfiction. See you next time.